Hello all, Cornkid here. It occurred to me that with the release of Dark Souls Remastered, there are probably some players coming to the game that are new to the game. I have some of those people on my friends list, and they're starting to sort of reach that wall and frustration that a lot of Dark Souls players reach when they first play the game. And at least talking with my friends who are new to the game, there are some things that sort of us old hands take for granted that some of the new players don't know or might need some help with in order to help them enjoy the game. I love this game, and so I'm trying to get my friends also to love the game, but they're reaching the point where they're going to stop playing it because they're so frustrated. So I'm going to talk about character creation today. Actually, I'm doing a whole series of these videos, but the first one's going to be character creation. So when you start your character, you get to pick your name, gender, class, and gift. The class and gift are the only things that make any difference at all on the start, because the gender, the name, all of this stuff mean absolutely nothing as far as the gameplay goes. So you can pick whatever name you want. I'm going to call this guy King Tux. He's going to help me with tutorials. Gender, again, you can male, female, literally doesn't matter. Now the class. So to talk about the classes, they have descriptions underneath the classes. You can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now the thing is, they have different stats and different levels. The choice that you make now doesn't really affect you for very long in the game. The starting stats, they do matter just a little in terms of what might be easier or what playstyle you're trying to play in the early game. But this game doesn't matter, or it doesn't care what you pick or how you want to play. So you could start off as a cleric and say, you know what, I don't like that, I want to be a sorcerer. And so how you level up your character influences things, but there's no restriction. It's not like if you play cleric, you're not allowed to use pyromancy. So the stats and how they matter, and you can see the character start off, we have level 4, 5, 3, 5, 4, 4, 3, 1, 2, and 6. So they're all low level, they're all relatively close. It's just how you like to play. So you get certain starting equipment with each character type. And so again, the knight has a high vitality. So quick review of the stats. Vitality is basically your hit points, how many hit points you have. Attunement is how many magic spell slots you have. Endurance is how long you can run, swing your sword. Also, it affects how heavy the stuff is that you can carry, your cumulative equip load. Your strength affects how hard you hit with your regular physical attacks. There are also limitations on what weapons you can use because you need a minimum strength to use certain weapons. It does not, however, affect your weight requirement at all. The strength just has to do with how strong your attacks are and if you can use a weapon one-handed or not. Dexterity has to do with, it's a different stat meant for things like daggers and bows. The higher your dexterity, the more basically power those types of weapons will have. It also influences, similar to strength, there are certain minimum requirements for dexterity for some of the weapons. Resistance is exactly what it says. It gives you resistances to certain things. Intelligence is the stat that you need to increase to be able to use magic, meaning sorcery. And then faith is what you need to use miracles. Now, there are pyromancies as well, which is another type of kind of magic, if you will. But with pyromancy, you don't need any stats for that. So, again, your knight has high HP, relatively okay strength, but he's not very smart, low intelligence. Your wanderer class has high dexterity relative to the other classes, and relatively decent stats even stats across the board with a low faith. Your thief has high dexterity, but is a little squishy. They have low vitality, low endurance, and low strength. Your bandit is your non-magic sort of starting class. in that you have high vitality, endurance, and strength, but you have low attunement and low intelligence. Hunter gets bow to start. Sorcerer, you use magic to start. Obviously, you got high intelligence and a very high attunement. They're also super squishy. As you can see, vitality is only 8. Their strength is 9. And they also don't have much for faith or resistance either. Pyromancer. So he can use fire spells, which is nice. A lot of enemies are weak to fire in this game. Cleric, not surprisingly, has high faith but low intelligence. And so they're kind of the opposite of the Sorcerer in that regard. And then Deprived. So Deprived has the same stats across the board. They also, interestingly enough, are the highest level starting character at level 6. And so they're basically kind of even. They also don't start with much for equipment. So if you're a melee, if you want to play as a melee character, you're probably going to start off as a warrior or a knight or a bandit. If you want to play as a dex character, you're going to be more of the wanderer, thief, hunter to start. And then if you're into the magic thing, you'll pick whichever thing you want, sorcerer, pyromancer, or cleric. So the other thing is the starting equipment matters, because in this game there's a big difference between starting equipment. And so it's basically like how good is your shield basically to start, and if you're going to be a melee character, and then like basically how good are you at hitting ranged attacks if you're not. So warrior gets a decent sword, and they get a shield that has 100% physical blocking, which is kind of nice. Oops. Cancel the canceling. Your knight gets another 100% physical blocking shield and a good sword, and they have some strong armor. Wander is sort of less so on all those things. Your thief, again, they get a dagger, they get a, it's with Bandit's knife, which is a special dagger. Bandit gets an axe and the spider shield, which is 100% physical blocking shield. Your hunter starts off with a bow and a sword and some arrows. Arrows are an item that you do not have unlimited of. You have to buy them. So that's something to keep in mind if you choose him. The sorcerer, I actually like to start. That's actually my favorite character to play in this game, because you start off like sorcery is kind of OP in this game. And so you have sorcery, but you also have a good parry and riposte setup and backstab setup, which will make sense in further videos. Pyromancer, you start with pyromancy, which is nice. However, the caveat with this is you don't get to get more pyromancy until you've kind of gone through the game a bit of a ways, and you have to fight some bosses that are pretty tough for new players before you unlock where you get the pyromancy. Cleric, of course, has a miracle, and they also have a mace, which is a really nice strength weapon. But the thing with them is you don't get attack miracles for a while, so you're basically going to be have extra healing until you get to the attack stuff. And then the Deprived, again, you don't get much except for a club. So with this is sort of a character that is probably meant for more advanced players, because you don't have any armor, which means and your shield is really crummy. That little wooden board thing is not very good as a shield, so you're really susceptible to taking damage early on. So it's more for advanced players, because you really need to be good at dodging with this character, and when it's your first time playing, most people aren't really good at that. I wasn't good at it. I got dump trucked by multiple enemies when I was early in my sort of Dark Souls career, if you will. Now for the gift. So there's a couple of things on the gift here that are worth mentioning. So the Black Firebomb is a really good gift for fighting the early bosses. It makes the early bosses super easy. And then the Master Key is the other one that is worth mentioning, because if you have it, you can open doors and get to areas that you wouldn't otherwise be able to access until sort of later points in the game. And most sort of walkthroughs recommend, or like that new players don't get the Master Key. because it allows you to access areas that are going to be super challenging for most new players a lot earlier than you would normally get to them. I almost always pick the master key with my new characters because, you know, again, being able to access areas is not a bad thing. It also allows you to get to some items once you get good at running that you won't have access to till later. And to get to the areas normally, again, you have to fight some bosses that tend to frustrate people pretty early on. So I usually will pick the master key for my thing. Now, the other thing you can pick is the Old Witch's Ring. This allows you to talk to and understand a character later on in the game. Now, you can get this through another means, so you don't necessarily have to get it now. Same with the master key. You can also get that later, but you don't really, so you don't need it now, but I still usually will choose the master key. So, now with the Sorcerer, again, which is sort of the build I like to start with, I get magic early on, which is nice. It's a good ranged attack. It's really good in this game, especially when you level up. And if I don't pick that, if I'm playing a melee character, I usually will start off with the Knight, because the Knight or the Bandit, really, because I like having the heavy armor, the 100% blocking shield. Those are super nice to have. But in the end, it doesn't really matter, because again, you can pick any class. Doesn't matter at all, because you can get items that will be able to allow you to start as a Knight and become a Cleric if you want. Start as a Pyromancer and become a Sorcerer. In fact, most of my characters are sort of hybrids of these things. Like I usually have Sorcery as a base with Pyromancy as sort of secondary, or Sorcery and Strength is another one that I will often use. But again, you can pick whatever you want. But again, class and gift are the only two things that really matter when you're picking, doing character creation, and it's sort of sixes based on how you want to do your playstyle. So that's it on character creation. Oh, and the other thing too is you can, as far as the physique, there's no change in anything stat-wise with the physique. The only thing is, I could say, is if you wind up playing PvP a bunch, it might make it easier for you to see or be seen if you pick the bigger physiques just because you're a bigger character. But that doesn't really matter, because in PvP, people who like PvP, they want to be seen anyway. They're trying to find people, but it doesn't affect your stats at all. Then you get to pick face, hair, color, and if you want to do sort of like, a lot of times people will see customization, they're like, how do they do that? And how they do it is, you know, once you pick, then you go to customize, and then under customize, you can even customize from customizing, basically. And so you can go like more in depth here to make things look crazy. So that's how people get like the funky hair colors and stuff, because they will move these sliders to give you things like purple or whatever like that. So you can really knock yourself out if you want, doing all that stuff. So that's it for character creation. Basically, again, it doesn't matter what you pick. You can make your character be anything that you want. I'll start with a Knight for this guy. And that's it for this one. Like the video, subscribe.